Well, it's just about that time. We've got to predict the 49ers captains for this 2025 season. They should be named on Wednesday. But first, a couple receiver transactions. Very interesting ones. Marquez Valdes-Scantling up from the practice squad permanently. It is a promotion to the 53-man roster to make room. The 49ers released Russell Gage. But according to Ian Rappaport, they do plan to re-sign him to their practice squad if he doesn't sign to an active roster elsewhere. I think that it's very likely that Gage is back in the 49ers building by practice tomorrow as part of that practice squad. Also think it's very, very likely that he's elevated temporarily for week 1. Might be their wide receiver number 3 for week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. They can use up to 3 elevations for Russell Gage. People are wondering why San Francisco ran this maneuver. Well, I'm reading the tea leaves, and I remember Marquez Valdes-Scantling said last week that Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers wanted him. The Steelers just released Robert Woods. So perhaps the Steelers were thinking about poaching Marquez Valdes-Scantling away from the 49ers practice squad. To prevent that from happening, the 49ers could have promoted MVS to their 53-man roster. If they thought that Russell Gage was less likely to be poached, if they thought that he'd re-sign with their practice squad, it would be a move or a set of moves that would make a whole lot of sense. So a little switch there. It involves a salary bump for MVS and a salary reduction for Russell Gage. Kendrick Bourne visited the Commanders today. We know that he did not sign the 49ers offer. The 49ers did offer, even though Juwan Jennings returned to practice on Monday. We'll be back out at practice tomorrow, and I think we're going to be able to get a whole lot more intel about what this 49ers receiver room may look like, but it's going to be Pearsall and Jennings at the top of the room, or at least projecting to be at the top of the room for this opener against Seattle. Then MVS and Russell Gage in no particular order at receivers 3 and 4, with Sky Moore also projecting to be active for the 49ers on game day. Remember, Sky is somebody who could be that dual returner that the 49ers really love, a punt returner and a kick returner for San Francisco. So that's the receiver shuffle. For all intents and purposes, this receiver room is not in a bad spot, especially with Jennings back at practice for the 49ers. Can they add depth? Of course. That's why they're interested in Kendrick Bourne, but at a certain price. Can things be better? Of course, but that's why they're excited that Brandon Ayuk is going to be back at some point after week 4, and they're also looking at somebody like Jordan Watkins to be back even before then. Watkins could be as soon as this week, based on the initial timeline from Kyle Shanahan, but I would actually expect him to probably be about a week 2, week 3 return. It should happen before week 4 because they decided not to put him on an injury list to begin this regular season. So all things told, that receiver room doesn't look all that thin anymore. And of course, they also have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Brian Robinson Jr. as weapons in this offense. Let's talk 49ers captains because the team votes on them after training camp in the preseason. And then on Wednesday, before the 49ers' first true regular season practice of the year, Kyle Shanahan names those captains. My predictions for the 49ers captain spots this year, there were 8 of them last year, and I think that there'll be 8 again. I think that Brock Purdy is going to be one of the 49ers captains. So is Christian McCaffrey. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, that's 4. Kyle Juszczyk is 5. George Kittle is 6. Trent Williams, 7. Leaving the 8th and final spot, TBD. Last year, Deebo Samuel was one of the 8. Obviously, he's now with Washington, so he's not going to be one of the 8 captains for the 49ers in 2025. I think that final spot comes down to either Deommodore Lenoir or Ricky Pearsall. And I think Ricky has made a very, very strong case for himself, not just over the course of this offseason, but over the course of the past year. And it was just over a year ago, August 31st, 2024, when he was shot in the chest a block away from Union Square in San Francisco. Still managed to play for the 49ers in 2024, play well for the 49ers the last 2 weeks of that season as a rookie, despite being shot in the chest just a couple months before. Finished up with, 14 catches, 210 yards, a couple touchdowns. And now, you know, regardless of whether or not Juwan Jennings is out there on Sunday, and I think that he's trending to be out there for the 49ers since he's back out of practice, but regardless of that, I think Ricky Pearsall is going to be the 49ers' X, the top wide receiver to begin this season, which, you know, given the entire course of this journey, given how badly the 49ers have needed him to emerge this year, and just watching practice, seeing him dominate day after day. He was out there the Golden State Valkyries game the other day with George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk. But just seeing how his stature of leadership within this team has grown, it would not surprise me if Ricky Pearsall were voted as one of the 49ers' 8 captains. Now, in the past, they had 6. Last year, they went to 8. So I guess they could fudge the number up if they feel that both Deommodore Lenoir and Ricky Pearsall should be captains. Maybe they have 9. I don't think that any of the incumbent captains will lose their spot this year, except for, of course, Deebo Samuel, since he is no longer with the 49ers. So there's no hard and fast rule saying it's limited to 8. So perhaps both Pearsall and Deommodore Lenoir earn that recognition. The 49ers love having a veteran player in every single position room, an A-lister, as I like to say, helping shepherd the younger guys there along. That's the guy that's the messenger between the coaching staff, the front office, and the younger players. And there's so many of those younger players on this team this year. So these captains' positions, I do think, are extra significant in a season where the roster did inject some serious youth into its ranks. Then the 49ers will move on to Seattle. As you know, I've already run the 49ers Seahawks first preview. Right now I'm in Tennessee, so no longer in the Hamptons. I'll be in San Francisco tomorrow, obviously Santa Clara for practice tomorrow, but then we're headed off to Seattle on, I leave on Saturday, but the 49ers play the game on Sunday. And Brock Purdy is 3-0 up in Seattle. Quarterbacks don't usually win up in Seattle with any regularity. And 49ers fans probably know this better than most, given the fact that San Francisco couldn't buy a win there for what seemed like over a decade. I know Alex Smith and company were able to win there in 2011. People often forget about that one, but then it got really bad for the Harbaugh 49ers in Seattle. Purdy has gone in there and he's undefeated so far. 2022 with a broken rib, playing on a Thursday night after he fractured it on Sunday. 2023 Thanksgiving game, ate turkey. That was revenge for the 49ers of sorts. And then 2024, even in a down year for San Francisco, Purdy came in there, played really well. Malik Mustafa, Renardo Green, a couple rookies, both had interceptions last year. So Purdy's had the Seahawks number on the road. And, you know, he's only lost to them once at home. And would argue that really wasn't a Brock Purdy at-fault kind of game last year against the Seahawks. That was where Nick Bosa got hurt and the 49ers defense just fell off a cliff in the second half against Seattle. But he has played very well against this particular division rival. And he's got a chance to get the 49ers to 1-0 by spearheading another solid offensive effort against the defense that is a very strong secondary, but is iffy in the front seven, especially that linebacker position. So Purdy to CMC and Kittle. I think we'll be talking about that a lot this week. I think we'll be talking about that a lot on Sunday. That's your 49ers news this afternoon. A little receiver roster swap there. Marquez Valdes-Scantling to the 53. Russell Gage. The 49ers will hope that he re-signs with the practice squad before it all begins tomorrow. Hit the like, hit the sub. We'll talk to you all soon.